Welcome back to episode 119 of the Disorganized Wizards Club podcast. My name is Alex. I'm here as always with Adam.
Hello.
And Cam.
Hey.
And we're a group of Ottawa-based players and play just about anything and everything we can qualify for. We talk about decks, tournament stories, just about anything to help you and ourselves get better at Magic.
Most certainly.
Most certainly. Dawn of the PT, boys.
Yeah.
Magic,
Wait. Pro Tour week. What do you
Mythic
mean?
Championship. Cleveland.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
There's no more Pro
MC
Tours.
week. Get on the mic.
Yeah, man. A lot of cool Magic tournaments happening this week. We've got Twitch Rivals today. We're recording Wednesday morning. Twitch Rivals starting in a couple hours. We got the Mythic Championship this weekend. Mythic Championship 1.
Okay, question. How often does the coverage team accidentally say Pro Tour?
Oh, constantly. Constantly. There's no way they don't. How could you not? Like, they're just going to say PT constantly.
Yeah.
And then they're constantly going to awkwardly correct themselves because it's a branding issue. And so they're going to have to say, oh, yeah, I meant the Mythic Championship, it used to be, and they're going to have to give an awkward explanation every time because otherwise if you're a new viewer and you're like, wait, what the hell does PT mean? You don't even, no, I'm serious. It's an awkward issue. It's just a rebranding issue.
Yeah.
They're going to be suffering from PTSD.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see what they do with coverage because they're not spending money on Grand Prix coverage anymore. So, where's this money going? This better be the best goddamn broadcast I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
You don't think so? It's just gonna be
it's
almost
guaranteed
guaranteed
it's
it's
exactly
business as usual.
Yeah, you're out of your mind.
I don't know. Could be like,
But guaranteed, it's no.
They're going to have some new fancy camera trick that rotates the battlefield, and that's about it.
Yeah, the problem is that
well, that's an old camera trick though. We've seen
It'll
that
go the
before.
other way as well now.
I hate saying this. It hurts me to say it because I have so many fond memories on Saturdays and Sundays. They're mostly actually SCG back when they had the old system of Standard on Saturdays and Legacy on Sundays. But still, of just watching paper Magic coverage.
Yeah.
I have so many fond memories of it and I love it so much. But I also recognize that it's just awful. It's an awful viewer experience for everyone except for entrenched players.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that there's a way to fix coverage, to make paper Magic coverage good. I think that's why they want to push Arena so hard because coverage for digital is easy because people can hover over cards with their mouse, see what cards do. It's exactly what Hearthstone has been doing for a long time. Man, do you remember years ago, and you might not remember, but Ryan does, years and years ago, and in Beep Chat, I was like, man, I wish I could message Twitch and I'd make a fortune if I could come up with this thing where when you're watching Magic, if you hovered over the cards, it would pop up and show you. And this was years before they had it at Twitch.
Yeah.
And then they did. And I was like, God, I would have been so rich. You know what I mean? I was mad. I was messaging him. Ryan's like, yeah, I know, I remember or whatever. Or maybe, I can't remember if it was Ryan or Ron, but anyway, the digital coverage is just,
for digital, it's super easy to do.
Yeah,
but
I'm
for
just so worried.
Paper.
I'm so concerned because I don't think they can make coverage good for the PT. It's just too hard for, you know what I mean? They definitely, I think, one step though, and apologies to all our Modern and Legacy fans, but one step is they can't have, I think, they can't have non-standard formats at Mythic Championships anymore.
I'm on board with that.
People who play Arena are new that are going to watch it, and it's advertised. It's going to be advertised on the main page on Arena, and you're going to see, hey, watch the Mythic Championship, here on Twitch, or at least if they don't do that, they better do that. If they don't, but you can watch. I mean, ideally, it'll get to a point where you can click in your client and it'll load it and everything, like many other games do for esports stuff. But anyway, players who play Arena and they only play Arena, they don't know Modern Legacy, so they're not going to watch this Mythic Championship if it's those formats. So, yeah, that's a bummer for Modern and Legacy fans who want to see it at the PT or Mythic Championship, and I think that'll never happen. And I also think eventually the Mythic Championship's not going to be paper at all.
Well, but they're already going to have just Arena.
No, I know that.
Championships.
I'm saying at all eventually.
Yeah.
So I think that's the case. But at the same time, if you're WotC, can you really do that? Because you make a ton of money selling cards.
Yeah.
So it's such a weird, they're in such an odd position with coverage and with marketing and how they want to, man, it's really tough actually.
Yeah. It's hard to.
It's not obvious to me what the.
It's super, like you're saying, it's very awkward because I also agree that I don't think you can do Modern and Legacy on the Mythic Championships anymore with how popular Arena is. But then like they're not even doing coverage of those Grand Prix anymore. So like where do you, aside from SCG, you just like can't watch big like competitive REL events in these formats anymore.
Yeah, unless they're SCG, which I think is good. So I actually think that they should. So I actually think this is kind of wildly off topic, but whatever. It's a PT. Yeah. It's a PT episode, so we're just going to be talking about everything. Is that I think what they should do actually is they run the Mythic Championships as like majors, just like other esports do, where they have 4 a year.
Yeah,
you know, the 4 majors a year, and then they don't care who else hosts and runs tournaments. And then you can apply to do a Grand Prix. So they go back to the old system where CFB doesn't have the only monopoly on it. Mm-hmm. And instead, you know, it's like if Face-to-Face wants to host a Grand Prix in Toronto, they just apply. And there's some rule that's like, oh, it can't be within a month of someone else doing one in Toronto. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There you go. We have this lottery for it or whatever. Or alternatively, they just hands off, which is what Counter-Strike does with everything. And some other companies, they just hands off. They're like, you just run tournaments, but you got to call it your own thing and do whatever, which was good for SCG.
And are these third-party tournaments, do they help qualify you for majors and other esports?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Like they just have to apply to like the developer or something? Or how's that work?
Yeah. It depends on, so sometimes it's based on amount of prize. It has to have X amount of prize. Mm. It has to have sort of, or it can count as just a qualifier. Yeah. So similar to a Grand Prix. So they do similar structures. And some do others where they just have qualifying. So they'll have just major qualifiers.
Okay.
So there's like huge SCG tournaments and Grand Prix, but those don't qualify for the major. And then there's major qualifiers. But yeah. So, I mean, like I'm just saying there's so many options. Like, I don't know what they're going to do, but it feels to me like as far as coverage is concerned, like Arena is obviously maybe not obviously, but it should be the future because watching Arena is bearable. Yeah. I'm saying for other people, not for us, we love watching Paper Magic because we know what every card does.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if you just like people watch Paper Poker.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's because they have technology in the tables that lets you see what their hands are. And they have graphics on the screen that lets you see what their hands are and all the information that the players are working with.
Yeah, but everyone knows what a 4 of diamonds is.
Right. Yeah. But I'm saying if they already have technology that converts the paper information into digital overlays on the screen, those can then be hovered over on Twitch.
Yeah, I agree that that's a thing. And I was wondering about that for a long time about like if SCG actually, because if anyone's going to do the coverage right, it's them, would eventually develop the mouse hover for paper for the computer to recognize. They totally could. That technology is not far away.
It's harder to do for hands in Magic though, because like those hands are constantly changing and updating, whereas poker, it's just you look at it and then it's just that's it for the whole round.
No, I meant on the table though, like what's been played, like in paper, hover out with the mouse. That technology's close. It's not there yet, but it's probably very very close on the camera imaging. Yeah,
I'm sure it's not a thing you could do automatically, but if you just had someone and that's their job, like someone plays a card, you just like type it in, like there has to be.
Well, they already do that with their hands, right? We already know that. Yeah. But I'm saying it literally just bots it, you know.
Yeah.
The image resolution AI knows what the cards are.
Yeah.
So when you mouse over it,
you know what they need to do?
Tells you that technology is not far away. There's no way.
Yeah. It would be.
They're self-driving cars. Like, come on.
So they already print Magic cards. We all know this with ink, but you could put some sort of like ultraviolet or infrared reacting ink that just puts like QR codes that bots, like cameras see, but people don't on the cards.
The camera imaging software is close. That's what I'm saying. It's close to being able to just see the card and tell you what it is. That's close.
I just imagine it being sometimes
facial recognition software is through the roof, right?
I imagine it being sometimes awkward because players are constantly picking up their cards and moving them to different spots on the battlefield.
Yeah. Again, this is all just,
Yeah.
it can follow this. This is just a tech. Yeah.
It's like, it can't be that different than like Instagram filters, which can track faces.
Right.
Yeah.
All these things can track. Like
actually, I didn't really think about that.
That's what I'm saying. The only thing is that official WotC coverage, I mean, they always have a glare and they're just useless. And the people who run the cameras are useless. Whereas SCG is pretty good. You know what I mean? Like, do you remember like if you ever, or SCG and the PT are playing at the same time and you open each, the quality of difference in the camera is just unbelievable. Between SCGs is so good and GP coverage was so bad. Not that that's a concern anymore because...
You guys know any software engineers? across your
Know a few.
all your schooling. Like
Know quite a few.
we can champion this.
Yeah,
we'll
I
build
know a
a
lot.
business. We'll sell it to coverage and make millions.
There's definitely lots of people working on similar things. I did an imaging software training that was actually kind of similar to this in the lab, but a couple years ago, and it's very good then. So, but our camera setups were maybe, this is a problem, that like the camera setups in my lab for motion capture were like $270,000, I think, just for the
$270,000. Hey, you say?
yeah, for just the camera system, because it's maybe 45 or 50 some cameras that all sort of they're on these sliding sort of, it's hard to explain. They're on like lever arms, and they all move around and sort of get 3D captures of what's in the middle. So that technology's there.
I can't imagine you would need that expensive of a setup to just capture cards on a table.
But I'm saying that, like, all I'm saying is that capture and recognition was already there years ago. This was years ago we had this. So
We're just going to see players wearing their noise canceling headphones and their motion capture suits covered in orange dots playing
it's
Magic.
like Tron, but not the deck, obviously. The bad movie.
Even the camera can't tell apart towers and mines out of Tron decks.
Man, but like, imagine the bugs in software when, some troll is playing different Urza Tower in my mind, like different art
like
for
me.
all. Yeah,
Like
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And the camera just tripping. Doesn't know what to do. Bot just freaks out. That's how Westworld happens.
Like doesn't think you have
that's how they come to get us, man.
it doesn't think you have Karn, but you don't have Tron, but you cast a Karn, and so it calls a judge and tries to DQ you.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it all goes down. You just trolled the magic bots too hard. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know, man. It's like really weird we were ranting about this for a while, but it's like, I think it's interesting for listeners and people who are interested in competitive Magic. Like, what's the future of competitive coverage and the lack of GP coverage now? Like, the fact that we just don't have coverage for a GP is insane to me. Like, or any.
I didn't even realize GP Memphis happened.
Yeah, it's just, we can't watch it. It's so brutal.
It is really brutal.
It's actually so brutal because I have such a, like I love, like I said, I love watching Magic.
But I mean, like they announced when they made the Reddit posts about no more coverage, or was it a tweet?
Who knows?
Yeah, it is.
I don't know.
They said
a stay tuned one?
They correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they said they were stopping this coverage so they could focus more on the MCs.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're going to do that and then you're just you're not going to improve the MC broadcasts at all, like
there's too many funny things with MC. Like, it kills me. I love it.
Well, they're probably going to try and, I mean, they already said they had the Pro Team series, right? Which sort of was this connected narrative across Pro Tours. And so if they continue having some sort of connected narrative with recurring players across all the Mythic Championships, this could be an MCU.
Well, they do. They do. It's called the MPL.
Yeah. See, the thing is, I think it's just awkward right now because we're in this transitionary phase where there's all these new acronyms and things going on, and this rebranding. It's just a rebranding thing. So we'll get used to it, I'm sure. But it's just awkward when you have, GPs are still happening, but it seems like they're kind of just being forgotten. But then there's still Moto, man. There's still the mocks. There's still PTQs on Moto. There's Mythic Championships. There's MPL. There's the Streamer Showdown stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
It's Twitch Rivals. I think that's an issue that they're going to have to deal with, is that maybe it's bad there's too much, but I don't know if that's true either. I don't know. It's tough, right? Mm-hmm. I'm a fan of too much. I think the
too much is not a bad problem.
I think the more tournaments, the merrier, which is why I said they should just contract out, let people have crazy tournaments. Like, what's that tournament, man, in Greece?
In Germany? Home Story Cup?
Oh, is it? Okay, well, that's right. Sorry, I thought it was in Greece. Yeah, where like it's just
Yeah, so it was just this like guy who wanted, he like had some sort of like Twitch broadcasting thing, Take TV, just wanted to host a StarCraft tournament, and so he invited like global StarCraft top pros to like his apartment and hosted a tournament. and just like stock the fridges with like energy drinks and beers. And like as the pros got eliminated, they would go on the couch and like cast the pro games of the people who are like still in. So there were like
that's hilarious.
Koreans trying to speak English, being just like screaming like, "Oh, this is a great play," and like they're all drunk.
Yeah. So
Recently, it's got more sponsors now though, and it's a bit more PC. But
yeah, so this inspired the reason why I said Greece is this inspired. Now I can't remember for some reason the name, but there's a Counter-Strike tournament that happens in Greece that this guy's like, he runs like I don't know, on some island, and all the pros come and stay at this house, and they like have a room just like we're recording in, just the size of a bedroom basically, and all their 5 computers are there. They play. Once they're eliminated, they just go swim in the pool, and like in the breaks in between matches, it'll just have the camera outside of like everyone eating deli snacks and like drinking at the pool and diving in the pool, and then. Yeah, like the casting is done by just people coming and going on the couch and talking about the tournament. Is inspired by the Homestar Cup. And so I think that Magic having...
We could do this.
Dude, we're already doing it. This is already...
This.
No, this is the plan in Toronto we talked about, remember?
Yeah.
This is already happening.
This could...
No, I know. I'm already in. This is why we're... Yeah. Once they give us access to Arena for... to view matches...
Well, you can do it already. You just have to have one person streaming.
Yeah, I know, but like...
It's already possible.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we have the DWC has
it was
big news announcements coming out next week.
It was sweet in Home Story Cup too, because like if it was say a Protoss versus Zerg game, everyone on the couch would be Protoss and Zerg players. Like the Terrans just wouldn't cast that game. So you always had experts on, right? So like what if it was like a control mirror, Marshall and whoever like got out of the booth and just like 2 renowned control players cast that game. That'd be sweet.
Yeah. That's kind of what what it's like. But we'll make it happen. This was the huge plan.
We'll find a way.
We were talking about it?
Yeah, I know.
All right, yeah. We'll keep this under wraps till
okay. But anyway.
Man, coverage is actually interesting to talk about. I know maybe this isn't for everyone and not the normal focus of the podcast, but I think it is part of competitive Magic, and watching coverage is how you get better at Magic sometimes. So
yeah. I think it'd be super fun to for the 3 of us to just cast a match or something.
I used to want Dave to let Ryan and I cast the Open. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they didn't have space. But I used to want him to let me and Prager cast it because I think we'd be great. And I was like, man, it'd be so fun. This was years ago. I was like, come on, let's cast the Open.
This Dave you speak of, he's the owner of which?
He's the owner of Wizard Tower.
Wizard Tower.
Yeah.
You know the proprietors of wizardtower.com?
Yeah, they are. In fact, if you're looking to play any paper tournaments and you don't have to worry about all the digital nonsense and you want to feel the sort of
the energy of a local Mythic Championship happening this weekend.
Yeah. They have a big modern open tournament, a 2K this weekend.
Here in Ottawa.
Yeah, here in Ottawa. So, you can go play that. And also you can just feel the sort of real paper cards in your hand, none of this fake digital copies. Yeah. Go play your expensive modern decks, which you can't even play on Arena. So really just smart tournament hosting by our good friends at Wizard Tower. Free shipping on singles in Canada. So do check out their website.
Wizardtower.com. Great sponsor of this podcast since day one.
Yeah. I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
Just great people, great store, cool podcasts on there too, like Commander's Brew. Those guys rule.
Yeah.
Super nice.
Sweet.
That was a good plug. I got excited about that one.
Oh, shout out to Tower regular Burn God Benoit.
Yeah.
Qualified for the PT.
You love to see that,
dude.
man.
Won an RPTQ.
I hope that I almost, because he messaged us asking us about Limited.
Yeah, he requested the topic.
Well, we've brought him up on the podcast multiple times because you've told the story about how he took our advice in draft and then just dunked on you and the Wizard Tower Open.
And as soon as he finished, he goes,
and we talked about him going X3 at Grand Prix Toronto with Burn.
Like 2 weekends ago or whatever.
And then last weekend, he won his RPTQ.
Yeah, qualified for the London Pro Tour, which is awesome. Trip to London, that's amazing. He is an unreal good aggro player. He's a one trick. Like he plays. I'm serious. He plays aggro decks. This is what he does.
Dude,
not
aside from that,
he can play limited. And
that one time he played his Yisan.
Oh yeah, he loved
Yisan.
Deck. That's because he just loves that card.
Yeah,
but he is an extremely good aggro player. He was. Didn't he get you? What was the one? Yeah, we've talked about.
Oh, dude. So he was playing. It was a Tarka Red. He was playing that standard, and what was I playing?
One of
But
the
he
Heroes
played-
Downfall decks, right?
Yeah, he played like an X1, like a 4/1 green hexproof creature.
Yeah. And you're just looking at a hand of Abzan charms.
Yeah, and I just couldn't kill it.
Heroes Downfalls, and you're like,
He just destroyed me.
You just teamer because you brought in removal
Yeah.
for a Tarka Red because they killed you with Teamer Battle Rage a lot of the times.
Yeah, and he just played a
Become
hexproof, dude.
immense, and he just played a hexproof who killed you. Yeah, dude, he is a metagaming burn champion, and I was so hype. I want him to
Yeah.
know. I almost just sent him this response when we had that group chat.
Yeah.
and literally the entire group chat that we have when he qualified of like the 13 of us, we're just like Benoit the God.
Yeah, there's justice in the world. No time.
Yeah, everyone was like, yeah, damn right, he qualified. Like everybody was just hype, man, in the entire chat.
Yeah.
Like everyone's like, Benoit qualified. He's not even in the chat. Just the whole chat was just talking about how sweet he is. So yeah, big shout outs to that guy, man. He's awesome. And love to see a Ottawa local queuing for the PT.
Yeah.
Yeah, the burn god himself.
Love to see it. But anyway, yeah. So this past weekend, we had Grand Prix Memphis. It was won by Black Red Midrange.
Yeah, a deck that we had seen at the SCG, and we had actually talked about and said we were sort of impressed at how tricky it played, despite the fact that we think it looks real dumpy.
Yeah, so Jody Keith won the tournament, Rakdos Midrange. He top-8'd the SCG the weekend before with the same deck. I played a couple matches with this deck and just got absolutely destroyed by Nexus decks, but like this deck has to have a good mono blue matchup and it has to have a good Sultai matchup. Because like if you're not favored against, those two decks, which are kind of two of the top decks in the format, I don't know how you're beating anything.
Yeah, I think that it probably has a favored Sultai match, but not by a wide margin. You know what I mean? Because no deck will. Because like they could just against this deck, they could just top deck Crisis late.
Yeah.
When the game's drawn out and then they just win. But you can definitely win the early game. We talked about this in the pre-show that Carnival Carnage is really good against export creatures. You just tag it with it on the stack, a shock, and then your big threats are ahead of the curve of theirs. Like Rekindling Phoenix is ahead of the sort of bigger top end you want to play that they might be playing, like a good Crisis, right? You're not playing it on turn 4. It's good against Vivian.
Yeah.
And you noted as well, which is important, they're playing less Vraska's Contempts because it's kind of bad against Mono Blue and a few other things.
Yeah. Yeah, like most of the Sultai decks that we've been seeing recently have all dropped down to the 2 Vraska's Contempts, which is...
Yeah. They all moved towards cast downs because cast down used to be, you know what I mean? A sort of flex slot. And now it sort of feels almost mandatory because of it's at least a shot in against mono.
Here's my thoughts. So Sultai finished second and in the top 4 as well in this tournament.
Yeah. Deck's still very good.
Deck's very good. I honestly, I like that. I like, I don't even know how you would pronounce this
I'm
guy's
not
name.
even trying.
I'm just going to call him NJG. NJG. Sultai midrange.
Yeah.
So I love dropping down on Wild Growth Walkers. Mono Red doesn't exist in this format anymore.
Yeah.
And while it's mediocre in the mirror, it's fine versus Mono Blue. Like it can be good versus Mono Blue if you're able to get around their tricksters.
You mean like not playing 4 and just playing 3?
Yeah. Like I even think you could go as far as dropping more. Yeah.
I agree. I think you can go down to 2.
Hostage Taker, love that card right now. I think it's a lot better than Chupacabra.
It's been nuts though since this deck existed because it's insane in the mirror.
I really like Vraska Golgari Queen right now in the format, and I think you should be playing at least one copy if you're playing Sultai, just because it kills everything. Literally kills everything. So good. Kills Crisis, kills everything out of Mono Blue.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
You can target enchantments, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's abrupt decay.
Yeah.
So having something that can target their curious obsession, because they can't dive down that.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Like, I actually think that card is so unbelievably good right now. And I think, these two decks aren't playing it, but I've been seeing a lot of lists from the SCG or like online that have been playing it. And I actually think it's fantastic.
That's pretty good.
I don't know how I feel about playing 4 Hydroid Crisis.
Yeah, that was the first thing I noticed about these lists, what they played 4. And then I thought about it and I said, well, that's fine actually, because there are a lot more answers now. People are like fighting over it more. Whereas before, it felt like you played it and people just folded like a chair, man. Like you would, right? Like in the beginning of the format, you just played a 6/6 crisis and the game was over.
Yeah.
But now people are, playing hostage takers. Of note, Angrath in the black-red deck, which is insane-o. They play a 10-10 crisis. They Angrath take it, hit you for 10, then it sacrifices, right? But there's just a lot more sort of answers to it. So I get playing 4 because you want to overload that card. And you just always want to draw it, I think. We're at the point where you just always want to draw when you're playing
I'm also
deck.
more of a fan of playing 4 in not Corey Burkhart's list, but the other one, NGJ's list.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's
NJG.
Because he cut Wild Growth Walkers for some Incubation Druids. So Incubation Druids makes your 3rd and 4th crisis just massive because it makes 3 mana, all your lands add to it.
Yeah, and also recognizing that the deck needs to speed up a bit, I think.
Yeah.
But also not because of mono red. So he made this decision, of, okay, I got to speed up, but not, I can cut a wild growth. I can cut some number of wild growth walkers because I'm not speeding up because of mono red. I'm speeding up because I'll get Nexus. I'll get all these things before crisis matters.
Yep.
And so I like that a lot, actually. Like, I think that's pretty good because, I think Incubation Druid's worse in the mirror because it does less. You know what I mean?
I mean,
it just doesn't.
I think mana dudes in general are actually really good in the mirror because playing ahead of curve is...
Yeah, they are, but not if you're... Yeah, only if you get them on curve. You know what I mean? Like, if you... Yeah, I think that I like that as much faster as he's trying to be with Dorks, he's at least playing 3 Vivian Reed and a Vraska Relic Seeker. Because if you are going to play 2 Incubation Druids, then, because in the mirror, this helps the mirror. I'm saying, like, if he was playing like everyone else where he wasn't playing that many Planeswalkers and he was just playing, I don't know, like more Chupacabra and Hostage Takers or whatever, then it wouldn't be as good because what are you ramping to with Incubation Druid on 4 and 5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, another Ravenous Chupacabra? Who cares? But if you're ramping to Vraska Relic Seeker, then I'm listening.
Well, even like comparing it to Wild Growth Walker, they're both good on curve and bad off curve.
Yeah.
So like if that's the slots you're thinking about.
Yeah, that's a good change. And also, I guess like as a single top deck, Incubation Druid is better than a Wild Growth Walker.
It takes less work to be a 3/5.
Like if you
Walkers
draw it on turn 15 and you're top decking, obviously Incubation Druid is just infinitely better.
Yeah.
It's a 3/5 instead of 1/3. So.
Yeah. But I like Corey Burkhart's split of the 2 Hostage Taker, 1 Chupacabra with a 3rd Hostage Taker in the sideboard.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
I think that, you're right, because the aggro decks are just dunzo.
But I would like...
Hostage Taker way better.
Going into the PT, the Mythic Championship this weekend, I could see trimming on Wild Growth Walkers. I like going back to at least 3 Vraska's Contempts in the main deck because
I wouldn't leave without 4 still.
Yeah, like I think you have to have at least 3 in your main deck.
Yeah,
right
I
now.
agree. I would still play. I would personally play 4 because that's a card that I feel so safe. You know what I mean? Like I'm never mad. I'm not like, oh man, I drew too many Contempts.
Yeah.
Because what you play against Teferi decks, or you know what I mean? Like there's so many sort of ways that.
Vivian's in the mirror, like
right. Like there's so many cards that you need to sort of answer with it. I think. I also think that being able to, it's just being instant speed XL is so important. Like getting rid of Hostage Takers now because of it. Like,
yeah. One question mark though is Carnage Tyrant. So Burkhardt played 1 Carnage Tyrant in his main deck. NJG didn't play
he played a Midnight Reaper.
Any in his 75. So
I think it's not a big deal.
It's like Carnage Tyrant isn't good as it was anymore. Like it's good in the mirror. It's okay versus mono blue if they somehow haven't killed you yet.
It's good versus Drakes, which you don't see as much.
Yeah,
it's still excellent versus
good against
Drakes.
mono blue if you start with if you have 2 Dork start and you can cast on turn 4.
Yeah,
that's often enough.
Yeah, it's good versus Drakes. It's obviously insane versus Control, but we're just not seeing as much Control.
I don't think it's insane versus Control. They've just all the Control decks are Kai's Wrath decks now.
Yeah, but they have to Wrath other things. Like if you just wait, if you just don't play like a donkey, it'll be good.
Yeah, I just don't think it's as game ending anymore.
Sure, but again, you just don't play like a donkey and it's nuts. Like because you have Memorial to Folly, right? And Find Finality. Well, this guy's not playing Memorial. Oh, he is. Okay, yeah, good.
Yeah.
You have Memorial and Find Finality. Like the thing is, like having access to a Carnage Tyrant means that when you draw it against control, you always have it. They can they wrath you, but you're playing 3 Find Finality and 2 Memorial. They have to answer Carnage Tyrant like 6 times.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you just wait, right? Like you wait for the first Wrath. If they play the second Wrath, yeah, sure, okay. But then you start Find Finalitying. Like I think and the problem is that they can counter everything else in your deck. If you're behind, they can counter every creature, and that's how you lose to control. So having a Carnage Tyrant is like a super safe stopgap for a matchup that you can definitely lose. I don't think you're favored against Esper with 0 Carnage Tyrants. I think it's really, really bad matchup actually. And I think even 1 is like tough, but if you draw it, you have like a pretty clear path to victory. Whereas if you don't draw, like if this is playing against Esper control, how does this win?
I don't know. You
like game 1, you just don't.
I mean, you could have a Vivian run away with the game if you're able to sneak it in. Like Hydroid Crisis is still drawing you cards. Like you could just outcard them and grind through them with like your Crisis and Memorials and Finds. Like I don't think it's that absurd.
Yeah, no, I know, but I'm saying it's not just a clear path.
No,
like control it knows how to play against everything that isn't Carnage Tyrant, right? It's like, and you also just sitting there with Hostage Takers and like Jade Light, just useless cards.
Yeah.
So that's the problem is if you don't have Carnage Tyrant, you don't have a clear strategy that you just know you can rely on. Like, okay, I'm going to play as Carnage Tyrant. It's going to resolve and pressure this Teferi, right? Whereas what happens when they have Teferi and open mana and you're just like, well, I'll try and cast these dumpy creatures.
Yeah.
Then you just lose on the spot.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like that comes up a lot. I still think Carnage Tyrant's probably worth a slot.
Yeah, like I like 1.
Yeah, I wouldn't play 2. Well,
would you just play 3 Crisis, 2 Tyrant?
Yeah, that's maybe fine. It's just like depends on the amount of control you're expecting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because everything else I think it's replaceable in every other matchup. I think it's every other matchup is replaceable with something. I think control is the only matchup where it's the only card that matters. And not only, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just so impactful and so obviously good there. But it in the mirror, like, yeah, it's good. But is it nuts? Like, is it the determining factor? I think Hostage Taker is probably better in the mirror.
Yeah. Well, yeah, with
better.
everyone playing Crisis, yeah.
Yeah, nuts.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. Like Carnage Tyrant isn't nuts in every, but it is insane versus control still. I get that they have Wrath, but I'm saying that's not good enough, you know, because of the amount of recursion, which is like kind of interesting about Find Finality, right? Because like part of me is like, is Find Finality still a 3 of, you know? But yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
Because that's a card that is insane versus control, insane versus the mirror. Insane versus every other nonsense mid-range deck trying, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's nuts. Good versus aggro sometimes.
Yeah, it's not really dead versus anything
That card's absurd.
aside from like Nexus.
You just can't play 4 because you can't risk drawing.
Yeah, it's
Your
just
opening
like-
hand just has 3 of them and like a land war elf.
It's absolutely abysmal versus like Simic Nexus, and that's probably it.
Yeah. But you can usually find a way to, well, no.
No, you can't.
You're just getting fogged.
Dude, they're not killing any of your creatures. It's just rotting in your hands. Yeah.
Useless, yeah. But that matchup is already, I think you're already losing game 1.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like you're already, that's standard right now, right? It's like the Gates deck for Mono Blue. It's like Mono Blue's winning every single time.
Oh yeah. It's not even close.
Same with Nexus. It's like, it's going to beat this deck most game 1s, like not close. But this deck obviously better at boarding than for Duress.
Yeah.
Being able to play Duress will just and negate, like 4 Duress, 2 negate. Like Corey Burkhart knew he's a good player. He's a super good player.
So
he knows like what his bad matchups are, man. Look at his sideboard. Like he's not.
yeah, I really like his deck list. The one main change I would do, well, the couple main changes that I already mentioned was I'd play a Vraska,
Main?
a 4-mana Vraska, yeah, 1 main. And I would play at least 3 Vraska's Contempts.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Could drop a Wild Growth Walker, and
I think you can drop 2.
Yeah, like I don't even hate
Especially
that
if you're going up to a Golgari Queen.
Yeah. Then in the sideboard, I think if you're playing Sultai this weekend, like you need at least 2 Crawl Harpooners, maybe even 3.
I think 3.
Like that mono blue is
Such a bad matchup.
it's a tier 1. It's a tier 1 deck. It's so unbelievably good,
and it's a bad matchup for you.
Yeah, it's not a good matchup, and that card is just so good versus mono blue.
Agreed.
Man, it just does everything.
I think that you probably don't need the Cry of the Carnarium in the sideboard. I think that could be the 3rd Crawl Harpooner if you're looking at Corey Burkhart's list. I don't
the cry is weird.
Fine.
Like
I don't like it. That's a one of. I know, like I get what it's for, but
yeah, they're like obviously you think like it's fine versus mono blue. It can pick off some stuff.
Nuts against mono white.
If it somehow resolves, yeah, like against
that's what
mono
I
white,
mean.
like they have draws where it just doesn't even matter.
That's what I'm saying. Like I think you can cut this card from the board.
Like it sits like really weirdly in the metagame right now.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's good.
Yeah, I could totally see just like abandoning it.
I'd rather play Ritual Suit in the sideboard.
Yeah,
Ritual Suit's nuts.
yeah. I don't hate that.
Right? Like I would, instead of Cry, because then I'm getting these Benelish Marshals out of here.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, because Cry ain't doing that. And then I'm getting the Djinn if I resolve my Ritual. Like, that's nuts. Because that's the thing. It's like, it kind of gets mono blue sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know.
Till it
Like,
doesn't.
That's something I said last format is that like playing against Ritual of Soot with mono blue is really hard because you often like leave mana open to protect things with dive down, especially on turn 4. And then you get Ritualed and it just doesn't matter because you didn't leave up the wizard's chart.
Yeah.
They're playing less dive
Ritual Suit actually
more spell pierce, but
yeah, Ritual Suit actually pretty good. It's something that I played in the sideboard of Green Black. The old, like last season, I played Ritual Suit in the sideboard of Green Black. Actually, 4 exactly like mono blue because I actually respected that deck last season. For like the mirror, theoretically, it can be just a utter slaughter in the mirror if you're behind. You know what I mean? Like I think having a 1 of Ritual Suit instead of a 1 of Cry the Carnarium is like the upside is so much higher.
just remember, I accidentally lost a game because in my mind, Krasis is like a 7-drop.
Right.
It does die to your Ritual. So
exactly.
I was gonna Ritual and like attack with my huge.
That's what I'm saying. Like Ritual Suit is like, right? Is that card nuts right now?
Yeah, probably.
Should we just be playing Grixis Control?
Just put it in the sideboard of this black-red deck that's playing Phoenix and Siege Gang and things that don't get ritualed.
Okay, so have you seen this yet? Have you seen that lots of people are playing a Grixis version of the Rakdos deck that Jody Keith won? Have you guys seen this yet?
No.
I have played against it. I've been playing a lot of Arena this week because it's reading weeks. I've literally been doing nothing. Like Cam probably knows I've been up till like now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I stayed up all night and slept because, I went to the gym this morning and had a meeting, but I've just been playing Magic.
Yeah.
There's Grixis builds of this deck that sort of replace certain cards. I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm pretty sure they cut Siege Gangs for Bolus,
Okay.
which is like, I'm on board.
They're still playing Chain Whirler?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not entirely sure. It's kind of all blends together, but it's like similar strategy. But they also can board into Thought or Azure and Duress and Negate. So just gives this deck, playing blue is like free apart from Chain Whirler. Mm-hmm. That's the issue. But one was definitely playing Chain Whirler. I don't know about all of them, but I definitely got Chain Whirlered. Grixis mana can cast Chain Whirler most of the times, no problem.
Any red deck can cast Chain Whirler this format if they want.
Yeah. That's no problem. Mm-hmm. And so I think you get a lot of options if you go to blue. And it was pretty strong because it gives you a better sideboard, right? And also Bolus is pretty actually good, but
I don't know. I'm not really buying you can cast Chain Whirler and Thought Erasure in the same deck consistently enough.
you can.
But
no, they boarded into Thought or Azure. They didn't have it main.
Yeah, but like you want Thought Erasure on turn 2, and like how consistently can you realistically cast that card on turn 2 if you're like aiming to cast a Chain Whirler on turn 3?
Okay, so
I think it's actually quite consistent. You'd be surprised. We ran these numbers this last format, and we were like pretty shocked at. I think it's like 86%.
I could be convinced if I could see that math, but
We were doing the Jeskai deck.
I mean,
in the brewing flask.
I won't understand it. Neither will you, but
Well, it's just numbers. It's just a percentage. Do you guys know what percentages are?
no, I know. I meant like how you got there. I have no idea.
I don't understand it. I wrote that code like a year ago. I just put the numbers in. But like we were playing Jeskai and we were casting Chainwhirler. So Teferi's a bit later. We were curving Chainwhirler into Teferi, but we were casting white cards along the way and like.
Yeah, we cast.
Not that different.
We played a deck with Lean and War Leader.
Yeah, but my issue is Thought Erasure is blue-black.
Right.
Like it's not like
so you
can
play
just cast it off a mountain.
Right, but all your duels are red. Mm-hmm. And then those duels are overlapping on blue and black. So it's the same as just drawing a swamp and drawing an island.
Yeah. So are you playing Guild Gates?
No, probably
or
not.
you're.
I mean, again, I haven't looked at it, and
So you have to have a black-red dual land, and you have to have a blue-red dual land.
If you're curving into Chainwhirler, but you don't have to curve into Chainwhirler.
Okay,
so post-board, Thought Erasure is more important. Maybe you board out Chainwhirlers because they're not great against control.
But in your main deck, are you telling me you're going to be playing Watery Graves and Drowned Catacombs in your Chainwhirler deck?
Yeah. Well, maybe not, but
that's my issue with it. Like if you're playing those cards, I Thought Erasure for sure, but if you're casting Chainwhirler, you're not playing those lands.
The 8 blue-red duels and the 8 black-red duels.
Yeah.
And then you'll need a couple more lands.
I think we played 4 basics on color, 4 mountains is what we needed to play. So it would be either 4 watery and 4 drowned, and then the rest of mountains would make
it 4 mountains and 2 watery, 2 drowned.
Yeah, something like that. And that made up for it, and we never had problems.
Yeah.
You can add something else if you want a 25th land.
Yeah, we already went over this. We already talked about this on an episode even. And we already talked about it in the Discord in a different chat because no one believed us. And we were like, no, you're here's the numbers. And no one believes you because
they never will.
They intuitively are right. That's how people work with math.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like it is. Okay, well, the numbers show you wrong. Okay, well, I feel like... Because I was talking about this with the 3-color mana, right?
Also,
about 3-color mana being better.
Even if you're 80% to have a problem, people will get unlucky and they'll be like, I knew they were lying to me.
That's what I'm saying by intuitively is they have a bias for experiential bias, right? Of it's when you have lands in your deck and you're like, okay, I know on average this is the correct, you know what I mean? But then you keep getting screwed and you're like, I'm gonna add another land, right? It's the same thing. But yeah, obviously it won't be perfect and you're obviously gonna get screwed. It's just a decision of is getting screwed 14% of the time worth it, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Or just play Duress if you're that worried.
Yeah, you can just play Duress. Duress is fine.
Yeah, I'm a coward. I would just play Duress.
Yeah, just play Duress. But I'm just saying, anyway, the whole point of this was I saw some pretty cool Grixis lists that were playing blue for various different cards, just experimenting with the changes in the Rakdos deck, which I thought were pretty cool. Most importantly, they were playing Hostage Taker.
Yeah.
So it was the black-red mid-range or Rakdos deck, but splashing blue, and it had Bolus and Hostage Taker, which was insane because Hostage Taker nuts.
Yeah.
Versus Sultai and various other decks. Also, importantly, it was really good in the mirror, right? Mm-hmm. If you're playing the Grixis version versus the Rakdos version, you have access to Hostage Takers.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Can you, if you take a Rix Matty Reveler with Hostage Taker, can you Spectacle it?
What do you mean?
It lets you cast it using any colors of mana. So if you've damaged them that turn, can you cast it for its Spectacle cost and draw 3?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, we need rules on that. That's actually interesting. Yeah, no.
Even if you can't, it's probably still good. You still get to rummage off it.
I actually think that there's something there. I think it makes the deck less clunky at times, the Grixis version, but I think there's something there. There's lots of options to way to build it too. You could even Dream Eater people instead of Siege Gang. No one did that, but that is an option that I think is actually gives the sort of Rakdos mid-range deck more play to it than it has because it's kind of has to play at sorcery speed the whole game.
Having negates can fix the Reclamation matchups.
That's what I'm saying. It just gives you some pretty interesting options for other matchups. And I don't think it's that unimaginable to see a world where actually a sort of Grixis mid-range deck that looks like this is quite popular.
Yeah.
But yeah, because taking Rix Matty Reveler with Hostage Taker is pretty hilarious. Siege Gang, obviously hilarious. Lots of good options. But yeah, this Rakdos deck I don't think does well this weekend, if we want to talk about predictions at all.
So I was going to say that as well. I think there's going to be a lot of people playing variations of Nexus this weekend.
Yeah.
because it's a sweet combo deck that's actually pretty good.
It's very good.
And that you're going in, as a pro player going into, you know, the Mythic Championship, I think you want to be playing something like that has never been a bad idea. And pros seem to kind of gravitate towards those kind of strategies.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
And yeah, I think going into this weekend, if you're playing something like this, you're going to have a real hard time.
Yeah, I just think also people will play control. I just think people are going to show up with Esper control.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like
Esper control is insane. It's good. It's very good. But I think that it's one of those decks right now where the difference at level of play is revealing. You know what I mean? It's a deck that you have to know the meta. You have to play well. But we do sort of know the meta. And this is a deck that if there's control at this PT, it's over. This deck ain't beating. You know what I mean?
God, never know.
That's, you know, like you're junky.
It's so bad versus control.
Your junky like chain wheeler deck ain't beating control.
Yeah, but
has
I mean,
a puncher's chance, but that's standard right now. Like everything has a puncher's chance in standard.
yeah.
But
I mean, like if you're just expecting to play against mono white, Sultai, and mono blue, though, like hell yeah. Give me this deck all day.
Yeah, this deck's awesome there. But that's not going to happen.
I think we see a couple.
People are going to show up with Nexus decks, and you already have a bad game one, a horrendous game one.
It's unwinnable game one.
Yeah, and a rough game two. Like things got to go really well for you. So that's tough. Maybe a Grixis build of this though again would fix that. That I would buy more. So I would believe that a Grixis midrange deck resembling this Rakdos midrange deck top 8's the PT before I believe that this version top 8's the PT. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
I think that's.
Yeah.
I don't think either will top 8 the Pro Tour, but the Mythic Championship.
I think we're going to see at least like a group or are there even teams still?
Yeah,
A group
there
of people.
are.
Okay, a team or a group of players playing like mono white aggro splashing black. Like we've seen the blue versions, but I think there's going to be people who like are playing duress and they'll do some interview and they'll be like, yeah, you know, with like reclamation and control, like we just wanted,
I could see that. Yeah, people just playing mono white aggro for duress because duress is nuts.
So yeah, there'll be white black aggro decks. I don't know if white blue will show up, maybe, but like obviously all these decks that are doing well, like someone will bring as they just go to the thing. But yeah, I think white black aggro will be like probably the aggro deck of choice.
That's a mean prediction. I like that.
So aside in this top 8, we also had a Gruul mid-range deck, which we haven't seen doing
there hasn't
too
been like
well.
any green-red monsters doing well.
But this one did. 4 Phoenix, 3 Siege Gang, kind of like the Rakdos deck. Collision Colossus, love that.
Yeah.
Kills every flyer, kills them all, kills them dead.
Combat tricks in standard.
Yeah, so
Embarrassing.
another Chain Whirler deck. And this guy got around playing it by adding 4 unclaimed territory to his deck.
Yeah, it's Shota Takao. This guy's been around for a while, but
Yeah.
no, it's the less famous Shota.
Another Dire Fleet Daredevil deck. I don't know. I think this deck is cool. I don't know how
I don't think
well
it's good, but I think it's cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure where
So
it kind of settles in the meta game after this. This one,
I haven't seen a deck like this. So I've played against similar, just like red-green stompy decks, but none of them had the like unclaimed territory Chain Whirler.
Yeah.
And I wonder how much that adds.
yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise I haven't seen anything similar. But
Does this deck line up better versus the Nexus decks because of Cindervines, or do
Yes.
Duress and Cindervines just kind of play the same role out of the sideboard?
No, Cindervines is nuts.
just Cindervines lights out.
Zertog Goblin, also nuts.
Yeah, Zertog Goblin also way better against them. But no, Cindervines is almost lights out for a lot of decks.
Yeah, you know what? This one has to just have a better Nexus matchup because your Spellbreakers, your Zertog Goblins, they just hit harder
just
and they
faster.
hit faster.
This has got to be just like draft chaff and rares and commons I own, right? Because there's like there's an Immortal Sun in the sideboard with 2 Karn Scion Versa.
Right, I could see
another Collision Colossus. Like this sideboard's hilarious, man. I love it.
I could see it as a proof of concept where it was like Cindervines is good versus Nexus. And you just went from there. Took about 2 steps and got here and played it.
No, Cindervines is insane versus them. Also love, again, 3 Legion Warboss. Find me the deck list that has 4 on the board. Or 2, actually. It's always 3, right?
Yeah. So
I don't think this deck's great.
I think this deck lines up pretty well versus something like mono blue. Just like your Phoenix deck, you have 4 shocks, you have Lightning Strike, you have Lava Coil,
Yeah, it's
Collision,
aggressive.
Colossus, Curl Harpooner in the sideboard, love that. I don't know how you line up against Salto. I imagine probably not that great.
I think it depends if you Phoenix them.
Yeah.
And it probably like, I think the games where you play a 3/3 and then you play a 4/4 in like Zertog Goblin Spellbreaker, and they draw 4 lands and play 2/2/1s, you just smash them.
Yeah, we've talked about this.
And so I think it just depends on how their explores go.
When we were putting together the deck dump and like the green red monsters deck that we had, it would beat the Sultai deck if it had that start. Like if it had an aggressive Spellbreaker start into like Phoenix, it would win. It can never, it's obviously never winning the late game,
Yeah.
but it can chip through. Yeah. But Siege Gang Commander just out here in full effect though. Not surprising, that card nuts.
Yeah, like the deck list is interesting, but I don't know if it's
I'm not sold.
yeah.
I would never play this deck. Ever.
Fair.
This is the kind of deck that I just like hate. It's just somewhere in the gross line between mid-range and aggro. It like straddles the line, but it doesn't do either of them super well. Like I just don't.
All right,
it's just not for me. Like it's
Add
just,
blue,
It's a personal thing.
add some Krasis,
Now I'm listening.
maybe a Ravager Worm.
Yeah, all right. If we're talking about Ravager Worm,
Yeah, how come Ravager Worm isn't in this list?
I don't know. That card's nuts. 6 mana is a lot though.
Yeah,
but
blows
mana
up.
has haste.
It blows up his Kanta.
Yeah, that card nuts. These guys are just blowing
If it hasn't flipped yet.
You know what?
Oh no, wait. If it has
has.
flipped,
If it
never
has.
mind.
Yes, nuts.
That card is nuts.
Have you ever like as anyone played Ravager Worm and you've been like, oh, that was bad here? Every time somebody casts it, you're like, oh,
You play Ravager Worm, you kill basically everything out of Sultai Midrange. If they don't have anything worth killing, you hit their Memorial to Folly.
Wow.
Yeah, you get their memorial. That's actually insane.
You just have a 5/6
Yeah.
that killed their Memorial.
Add Ravager Worm to this deck, and I'm listening, guys.
Add the Ravager Worm to every deck that can play it, really.
That card is sleeping in Standard, I think.
I agree. I think it's actually very good. I think it starts to see play eventually. Maybe at the PT we'll see some sweet Jund list. Yeah, that's the other thing. The Rakdos mid-range deck could move towards Jund. I don't know what you want to splash green for. Green traditionally not been a color that is good on the splash. It's a color that you want at your base.
Well, we were talking about how we liked adding the Incubation Druids because there were more Planeswalkers and 6 drops in that Sultai list.
Yeah.
Just play this Gruul deck or a Teamer deck with like 4 Elf, 2 Incubation Druid, and some Ravager Worms.
You mean kind of like the one we posted in the deck dump?
Yeah.
Like that one.
You check that out.
Hell yeah. So let's talk about this podcast's favorite deck, Mono Blue. So 2 copies in the top 8 of this tournament, won the SCG the weekend before. This deck is
Yeah, like how much
the
more is there
best
to
deck
say at
in
this
Standard.
point?
Best deck in Standard.
I don't think it's the best deck.
I'm always hesitant to say that, but it's definitely...
What's the best deck in Standard?
There is no best deck. It's a rock, paper, scissors format.
I feel like trying to find the best deck in Standard sells yourself short on actually understanding the meta.
Yeah. Like it's just a meta like dependent format, which is like the first time in 2 years we've had that, but there is no best deck. Like things can move and change.
Okay, well, I'm just going to call it Tier 1.
Yeah, so that's fine.
There are multiple tier 1 decks. Like there are tier 1 decks that are going to have bad matchups against other tier 1 decks.
So one of these lists is the exact 75 that Alex Hayne was posting about on Twitter that he used to get to number 1 Mythic. Exact same 75, hasn't changed. It was same list, top 8 at the SCG event as well. Or it won the SCG event.
What perfection looks like.
His peak performance. And then Steve Rubin also top 8'd with a slightly different deck, up on Dive Downs, up on Spell Pierces, Entrancing Melody in the main deck.
Noted guy who has top 8'd a GP with a 61 card deck.
When? What archetype?
Maybe.
What deck?
During the Rug mid-range decks, the Teamer mid-range decks, during Torrential Gearhulk
Kaladesh.
energy days. Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah. Yeah. There was a big deal about it.
Why?
Obviously. Because you also know, Benoit played 61 cards, right?
Yeah, obviously. He's been
does.
doing it for years.
Yeah. He only ever plays 61 cards. His logic behind it is great.
Yeah, it's the numbers thing.
Yeah.
And people don't believe him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, people don't
a similar plight.
And then his hilarious like comment on it is, yeah, because it's not like other decks where you're trying to draw to like your good cards. It's burn. Every card does the same thing.
Yeah.
Except for Adalon. He's special. That was like his exact line to me when he explained it to me. That was great.
Yeah.
But,
So-
yeah, the mono blue deck, I think playing Entrancing Melody, I'm a fan of.
Entrancing Melody, nuts.
In the main, yeah. And then 3 in the board, I'm a big fan of this.
Yeah. So it's really like it's the best card versus Sultai, like post board.
Yeah, take their graces.
So I love being able to go up to 4, whereas the other list only gets to add 2. Like this is pretty much the only deck I've been playing on Arena for the past like week and a half, 2 weeks, and the deck is like insanely good.
Yeah, it's very good.
I think we're going to see a lot of it at the Pro Tour.
I think it's under 20% though.
That's still a lot.
I think we see a lot for this deck, but I still don't think it's like as widely respected as it should. Even though more people are respecting it now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think
You don't think like it
it
wasn't
might be sub 10%.
Wasn't it like was it the most played deck on day 2 of the GP or the second most played deck?
First or second, I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Okay.
I think it's not fair to say that people aren't respecting it anymore. Like people know. People are
At a
on
GP. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the PT, like I don't know what people are gonna. You know what I mean? Like PTs are weird. Although lately less so, just because they're later.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't say that I don't expect that many people to bring it, because that was part of why I said I thought this like a flavor of mono white would be popular or would be sort of the aggro deck of choice, is because people are gunning for this.
Yeah. But I still think it's like, well, I'd be surprised if it was above 20% of the meta at the PT, but like 13%,
Yeah, like
I could see that.
I'm with how diverse this format is. I'm not really sure we'll see any deck with that
Above
big of
20?
a portion.
Yeah, I'd
but
be shocked. Like something happened. Like everyone missed something, and some like team like spilt the beans and like.
yeah, I really think though, like this deck and Sultai are just probably still going to be the highest most played decks.
Yeah,
that's fair.
2 most played decks are obviously going to be this and Sultai.
And you know the deck's just so good. It, like
And then maybe Simic Nexus 3rd most played. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the 3rd most played deck.
Simic or Bant?
Either one. Just Nexus
decks,
like
yeah.
Wilderness Reclamation
Yeah.
decks. Like I wouldn't be surprised if that's the 3rd most popular archetype at the PT, because I just think that deck is insane. And I think that like I haven't put in any time into like tinkering with it, but it's the only deck in Standard that feels busted. You know what I mean? Like unfair. You're like, okay, well, you don't get to play Magic anymore. This game's over.
Yeah, you have some pretty powerful turns because they're like 7 turns.
They're all the turns. And it can do it almost, it can cobble it together almost out of nowhere. Like it's crazy how much you can find it. Like it's RNG based, obviously, but yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, so looking at these 2 lists, I think going into this weekend, I'd be more leaning towards Entrancing Melody, Entrancing Melodies. I like going up on dive downs.
Well, yeah, you should assume to be playing against the Mirror and Sultai. And so playing Entrancing Melody main seems sort of like a no-brainer.
Why do you like going up on dive downs? Like it's Sultai is cutting contempts. They're cutting spell removal.
So they're
Mirror, it doesn't really matter. It's not good against the white decks.
they've trimmed down on contempts, but they're still playing the hostage takers. They're still playing.
They still play cast downs.
They're adding cast downs and Assassin's Trophy. Like they're playing a bit more cheap.
They just went to earlier removal.
Yeah, right. But they're playing as much removal as they were.
Yeah.
And like you can still spell pierce those things. Like if it's earlier removal, it's still in spell pierce range.
Yeah, that's true.
So dive down allows you to counter a turn 2 Crawl Harpooner on your 1-drop.
That's fair.
So, and that card is like the biggest issue. Like
yeah, okay, Crawl Harpooner, sure.
also looking at this, like I think I would want some number of Essence extractions in my main deck.
Essence Capture?
Essence Capture, yeah, not Essence Extraction.
Yeah, like I'd rather go up on Essence Capture than dive downs, because like, as we were talking about in the pre-show, maybe we mentioned it in the episode, that like out of mono white, the hardest cards to deal with are Benelish, Marshal, and Venerated Lockstone, because you can already spell pierce the Conclave Tribunals and the History of Benelius.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an awkward squeeze because Essence Capture, it's literally going to depend on what you think shows up more because Essence Capture is insane versus Mono White. Like you want that for Benelish Marshals and Venerated.
Like if we're basing off this list by Toru, the Hain list, like 2 dive downs, 3 captures, I kind of like 3 and 2 capture, especially now like Rekindling Phoenix had a good weekend and like there's a lot of Phoenix floating around on Arena.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that'll translate, but like, yeah, I want more Essence Captures if people are playing more Rekindling Phoenix.
Yeah, and Essence Capture is never that bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty good. Yeah, I could see that.
But
it's probably not a huge deal. But I think you do want more than 2 Entrancing Melody in your 75.
yeah, it's kind of funny too, like out of all the 1-drops in this deck, like you kind of assume Mistcloak Herald is the worst, right? Like Terramender can get huge. Siren Storm Tamer turns on your Wizards or Torts and also
Is a counterspell.
Is a counterspell, but like pretty much against every deck, the only creature I ever want to suit up is a Mistcloak Herald.
Well, yeah. I mean, what was the card you just talked about that you're scared of?
Crawl Harpooner.
It doesn't get Mistcloak
exactly.
Herald.
So like it's kind of funny that like it's by far the worst one, but it's the only one you ever really want to put in Curious Obsession.
It gets into some like really interesting situations. Yeah.
Yeah. And like obviously in the mirror too, like Terramander and Storm Tamer can get blocked, whereas the Mistcloak Herald can't.
What do you mean you can't? You should be careful.
You can get trickstered, but like,
just if you're playing the mirror, watch out for Trickster. Because I had that happen to me and never forgot.
Yeah.
Put a Curious Obsession on a Trickster and attacked, and they just made it a blockable 2/2 and ate my Curious Obsession.
yeah. So yeah, I do still like Mono Blue in the format, and I think it'll perform pretty well this weekend, just because like it just has those draws where like it doesn't really matter how prepared you are for it, like you just don't get to do anything.
I think that like it puts like 1 or 2 in the top 8, but I don't think it wins. Like I don't think it wins. I'd be shocked if it wins a PT.
I think there will be.
But it could.
I think there'll be like a number of Mono Blue decks in the well-performing standard lists who miss top 8 on like bad limited performances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's 1 to 2 in the top 8. No more than 2 is my guess.
Yeah.
And then I think a white deck, top 8, it's like a white weenie deck because it's preying on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the white decks are like they're good, but like if you're just having good draws all day, you're just gonna smash everybody. But like,
yeah, and you can beat Mono Blue, you know what I mean? But like other matchups can be really, really hard.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're just having good draws, like you can still smash them,
So
right?
what's our prediction? 2 blue decks in the top 8, a white deck.
This is, I'm just saying what mine are, but
Yeah, I'm cementing mine in. 2 blue decks, a white deck, 2 Sultai midrange, some midrange brew.
There's going to be at least 1 Nexus deck.
yeah.
Okay.
At least.
Yeah, a Nexus deck, a control deck. I think I'm over 8.
No, yeah,
That'll be the top. That's the top 10.
I think there's like a control player who sneaks in.
Yeah.
Like on Esper Control who just has a really tuned control list, understands the matchups. Like I think if you understand your matchups and everything with Esper, like you can have a very good weekend.
Yeah.
The Mono Blue matchup can be really tough, but every other matchup is like not that bad. Like I wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like what matchup as Esper, like you were playing some Esper recently, like what matchups do you not want to play against? Besides,
Nothing really. They're all fine.
That's what I'm saying. I think that the banned Nexus deck you can't win, but like I don't think there's anything you can do.
Yeah, but like
it's just so miserable.
Yeah, but like you probably win game 1 because they have so many like nonsense fogs and stuff in their deck.
Yeah, but they just pitch them to Chemistry's Insight.
Yeah, sure, but all you have to do is negate a Reclamation and play a Teferi. Like it's just whoever Teferis each other. It's like a control mirror.
Yeah.
So
The problem is that they flip search super fast. They have 3 searches.
yeah, search
Like,
is a big deal.
That's the issue.
You can mortify their searches. They can't kill yours.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I don't know. I've never lost it, and I don't think it's losable. Because, again, they can mortify your search, but they also have to counter every single Nexus. You know what I mean? Not have to, but
Yeah.
there are just so many problems for the control decks. But it's interesting. Like Esper before, it felt like so sweet for a sideboard because you could board into Basilica Bellhaunts versus aggro and stuff. But like aggro decks are, you know what I mean? They're like gone. So I wonder like what sideboard cards now you'd want. I think like 3 hostage takers would be sweet.
Maybe an unmoored ego.
Yeah, I honestly like.
You just take the Nexuses.
Yeah. So I got unmoored egoed or whatever, and I lost on spot in a constructed event because I was playing Nexus, and my Esper control opponent did it and took my Nexus.
Yeah, like they lean so heavily on that card that
and I couldn't win with just Teferi and deploy. You know what I mean? Like that was my backup. Like win condition was like depose, deploy, Teferi. I was like, oh,
exactly. Now you're just playing a worse version of the mirror, and they can beat the normal mirror.
Yeah.
So like,
So I have played against Esper a couple of times on ladder, and the strategy, like I've been playing mono blue, and they've been sideboarding in hostage takers for me. So I think Esper players are adapting that card, and I think that's smart because it was really good.
yeah. I think there's a few changes.
I killed someone at a side event at GP Toronto. He's playing Red White Angels because I boarded in 1 hostage taker playing Esper control, got a Resplendent Angel, and then I had a bunch of white sources. So I started pumping it in, making 4/4s.
That's actually nuts.
Yeah. But so that
What time are we at right now?
we're pretty high. We're going to jump into draft. I haven't been drafting a lot of this format. I've been mostly playing standard, but you guys have been drafting, right?
Oh yeah.
That's like all I've been playing on Arena recently is a bunch of drafts.
All right. So Professor Cameron, fill us in. How do I draft Ravnica Allegiance?
I'm not a professor yet.
Future professor.
Mr. TA.
Cameron, future pro. Tell us. Tell me how to draft Ravnica Allegiance.
Okay.
Cam Future Pro. please make an arena account named Cam Future
Cam
Pro.
Future Pro. I wanted to make one called Frank Einstein.
Yeah.
That one's a pretty good name. Anyway, so
Never be better than Ben's, but
general remarks, things that I've noticed in this format is that whether you're drafting the green decks or the non-green deck, it feels like everything is either a green deck or a black deck. I'm not super high on Azorius. So under the sort of idea that you should be playing a green deck or a black deck, the whole format kind of revolves around death touch creatures. The black decks need to stockpile as many as they can to compete against the huge green creatures. And the green decks need to find answers or play the early game in such a way as to remove these death touch creatures. This is actually something I was talking about in Discord, but early in the format, I was high on Rakdos Roustabout because of its ability to on-demand enable Spectacle. Whether they block it or not, you get Spectacle. Mm-hmm. And I ended up with 3 or 4 of them in my top 8 draft deck of the sealed PTQ.
Yeah.
And they weren't good enough. I hadn't drafted a lot of the format at the time. And my opponent was on Gruul and just played a 4/4 and then played a 5/5. And it didn't matter that I had Spectacle. My 3/2s were invalidated. So whatever benefit they gave to my other cards wasn't worth losing those. I couldn't attack. I couldn't do anything with them. They can't block. Their 3/2s, like what? They're going to double block a 4/4? And so the actual 3-drop that black decks want is Noxious Grudian. If you start prioritizing, because Noxious Grudian does everything Rakdos Roustabout wants to, and it trades with green creatures. If you need a Spectacle enabler and you attack with a Noxious Grudian, no one blocks that card.
Yeah.
Yeah, people just don't block Death Touch.
Right.
Yeah.
People don't block Death Touch creatures. So the best cards across Orzhov, the best cards that overlap on Orzhov and Rakdos, and some of the best cards maybe just in these decks are Orzhov Enforcer is nuts, but Noxious Grudian, Blade Brand. And then from the green side, you just need ways to deal with these things. So that's, I think, the general mindset to keep in mind is whatever side of this dichotomy you're on, Death Touch matters immensely.
There isn't really another side to this either, I think is important to note. There isn't really, the archetypes don't fall in other direction. There isn't a third archetype here. Azorius isn't real.
Yeah, I haven't,
it doesn't have an archetype.
I haven't seen a good Azorius deck. I haven't drafted a good Azorius deck. Every time I end up taking blue and white cards, I end up in Esper.
Right, because
or
Esper is actually
Bant.
insane.
Yeah.
But you're still a green deck or a black deck.
Yeah, because Esper is insane. I think it's actually perhaps it's close tied to the best color combination in the format.
Mm-hmm. And so I think the reason for this, and it's something that I was going to mention again sort of in the Orzhov section, is that if you look at the curve filling white commons, they're not good enough.
They're all terrible.
There's a 3-mana 2/3 that untaps something. There's a 3-mana 3/2 that
actually
pumps
all
something.
so bad.
Yeah.
Civic Stalwart pumps your team, but then is irrelevant.
Yeah, no, they're trash.
Yeah.
And so the blue cards aren't good enough to hold up the white cards, but they're great in supporting green cards or black cards or
Yeah, green or black. They're good support, but
Yeah.
they can't be your base.
I don't think try to stay out of Azorius. Oh, and as a note on Azorius, like I have lost 2 blue-white decks because they draw a high alert and then their bad creatures aren't bad, but like don't do that. High alert's not worth it.
Yeah, it's just the percentage chance. Also, I've lost to an Azorius deck. I think I've lost to 1 because they had Verity Circle.
Yeah, that card's good.
And that card's insane, and I would take that over. Like, there are certain rares, I think, that make it acceptable. Like, I lost to Verity Circle, and then he had, like, double Law Mage's Binding and double the draw 2 if you cast this in your main phase, gain 2.
Sphinx's Insight, yeah.
Yeah, Insight. And so he just out-card advantaged me and had a Verity Circle, and I just lost. And also, of note, I think you just need to have an insane Azorius deck for it to work, because he also had the Azorius Guildmage, and Azorius Guildmage is
That
like
card's
just absurd. Like, it's actually obscene. So,
but like, yeah, he overwhelmed you with the power of support Azorius cards.
right, yeah.
Whereas had his deck had green creatures in it
Or black.
and those like something else other than the white commons in it, it would have been even crazier.
Yeah, he took forever to kill me. Of note, actually, despite all this, he almost lost.
Right. So like
Despite his insane draw and his insane deck, he almost lost. It was close.
yeah. So that's sort of the framing going into this. I'm going to have like some blurbs here written about each of the playable guilds, but the framing is like it's a green-black dichotomy format, and keep Death Touch in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. So, also, probably play a Locket. I think every deck wants 1 Locket
Yeah, you couldn't play them in guilds,
because it was a bit too quick.
but it was too fast, but this is fine.
Yeah. Because like,
The 2-drops aren't great, and there's not a lot of them.
I think there actually are some pretty good 2. I was looking
No,
through
there are, but I'm saying like you don't get them as often. It feels like there's not like
There's not as many good ones as there were. in
or
guilds.
yeah, maybe it's not even as good. It's that decks aren't slanted to take advantage of playing 2-drops. You know what I mean? Because the best deck in guilds played a 2-drop and then played a Mentor 3-drop. So the 2-drops felt more impactful.
kind of want to they felt more impactful. I kind of want to disagree. I think these decks, and this was a point I have here, is that they take advantage of them differently. So like there are 2 sort of very powerful enchantments that everyone will notice. Like there's the Rhythm of the Wild decks and there is the Ill-Gotten Inheritance decks.
Yeah.
But both of these need, like if they don't have a strong board presence when they play these cards, Rhythm's a bit of an exception because you can just slam it. But like Ill-Gotten Inheritance, if you don't have a large board presence when you play this, you can get outraced and ran over. And so like these decks just want to have 2-drops on the board when they play these cards. And also you need to have a board presence of 2-drops in order to start racing when your opponent plays these cards. So like I've actually found that my decks with 4 to 5 2-drops of the, like some are bad, but like I made a note of like the good ones
Yeah.
are way easier to play, way easier to win games with.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you can play bears is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Like you can and should play grizzly bears and treat them as such and be happy to play them.
Yeah.
But also, so we had this discussion last night of would you take Scorchmark over like Domri or Nikia? I say yes.
Yeah.
It's close. I think I would in a green-red deck.
Over Domri, maybe not, but over Nikia, probably, yeah.
Nikia,
Nikia's kind of a trap.
Yeah,
'cause,
Nikia's not great. It seems nuts.
yeah.
It ain't.
It's just like, it's just a rampaging Redhorn that then stops you from casting a removal.
Yeah. But the reason was because of what you're saying, Scorchmark becomes absurdly good in this format because Thor's decks, like Afterlife's still an issue. They can still be really good.
Yeah.
But just getting Death Touch things out of the way. Scorchmark just clears is early, cheap ways to. Otherwise, you don't have these things.
Yeah. So
You
like,
talk about this actually. And
yeah. So my point for Gruul is like in your early picks, like 1st through 4th picks in a pack, prioritize like Scorchmarks, Skewers, Savage Smashes, like prioritize removal because there's enough just large commons in Gruul that you will get those later. Like you don't need to pick Rampaging Redhorn 3rd. One will come around. Or a Frenzied Airings or whatever.
Although you probably take Trollhide Guardian over.
Trollbred Guardian, yeah, you'd probably take that over some removal just because it's so huge. Like it's the next biggest thing to Gate Colossus.
Yeah, it's just massive.
So outside of nuts cards like Trollbred Guardian and Rhythm of the Wild and like good rares, you want to spend your first few picks on removal. And then like the creatures will follow.
Yeah, like you're gonna get good commons later.
Yeah.
Because all the green commons are all about the same.
Yeah. So
For the creatures.
if you've done that and you've put together a deck that does, or like you've you have a deck with enough removal and like fine commons. I think general play patterns when you're playing Gruul is like, I've played against Gruul opponents who, when I have Death Touch creatures early, they don't attack with their 2-drops and 3-drops because like, oh, it'll trade with a whatever. No, you have to. You have to attack with your 2 and 3-drops. You have to trade for those Death Touch creatures early so that your 5/5s don't trade with them. Mm-hmm. And also like, yeah.
It seems so painfully obvious to me. But
Right, but like people weren't doing it, so I'm just mentioning.
I know. Like I'm aware because people are like, it's Death Touch. Like I don't want to lose my guy. It's like you're just gonna lose the better things you play later.
Yeah. So you want to clear those things away, and then both Gruul and Simic, like as on the sort of the green side of this coin, like they have some removal, but it's not great, and so you kind of want to like put your opponent in a spot where your large creatures make them chump later because they have to prevent damage. And you do this by pushing damage early, which is why cards like Savage Smash are so good because you get in a huge hit after killing an early blocker. So like, don't be too afraid to use Savage Smashes early.
Yeah, you should just use them in my experience.
Yeah.
You don't hold it like, oh, I should, it's removed. Because generally in limited, you want to really hold your removal. You should just never cast it basically.
But
in this, yeah, you just want to Savage and...
Yeah, if you're playing a green deck and you played like 2-drop, 3-drop, and they played a 3-drop, Savage Smash it and attack them for 7. Like, because then it makes them block awkwardly for the rest of the game. And like cards like Colossus are good for this too. Collision Colossus. Collision, obviously, you can pick off flyers, which are sometimes an issue, but Colossus just saves your creature and pushes so much damage early.
Yeah, that card's nuts.
Like, if the black decks get the leisure of choosing when they want to take damage and choosing when they want to chump, they'll kill you. But if you make them have to chump because you push damage early, then like you'll have a fighting chance. So that's Gruul. Notable cards. Savage Smash, Rampaging Renhorn, and Friending Args is like your good commons. Skewer and Scorchmark. These cards that push damage. Stormstrike, also good for getting past Death Touch.
Yeah. Stormstrike's been good for me, and this is coming from a guy who hates combat tricks.
Yeah.
It's actually been really, really
been good for getting past Death Touch. And Gruul has like no real card filtering, so the Scry is nice, and because of this I also put Burning Tree Vandal because it helps you like smooth out your draws a bit because you don't really have a way to otherwise. So on that note, for Simic, I think it's a green deck. It's similar to Gruul, but I think you should be a bit more focused on like, whereas Gruul's more focused on like these 5-drops, 4-drops, 5-drops, Simic should be more focused on 2, 3, 4. And the general play pattern being like play some 2-drops, 3-drops, then like bounce something with Arrester's Admonition or Applied Biomancy and attack and get your creatures in. And so like your turns 3 and 4 are bouncing things and attacking. And then on your later turns 5 or whatever, because you've been bouncing things, they've replayed one creature. But now you get to attack and adapt whatever they block.
So yeah, you're kind of bridging to your late game by
right. Your late game is inherent in your early creatures that have adapt. Mm-hmm. And you get there by like, you don't really have removal, but you have bounce spells. So it's this push damage and then make blocking hard later by adapting. So you just want to play to like capitalize on the fact that combat is just hard for your opponent when all of your creatures can get bigger at sort of any moment. Otherwise, like it's the same concerns. Like worry about Death Touch. Flyers are really good. Notable cards in Simic are things that like play to this like temporarily removing blockers plans. Sharkdo Crab and Chillbringer being like A+ cards that do this. Applied Biomancy and Arrester's Admonition pretty good. And then you have like your generic commons. Like Aeromunculus is great. Senate Griffin's good. Sorrowform Hybrid, probably like the bread and butter Simic card.
I mean, it's insane in Gruul. It's
also nuts in Gruul, yeah.
It's like, it's unbelievable green common. The best 2-drop green card for sure.
Yeah. Titanic Brawl, also nuts in Simic decks because basically all your creatures will be big. They'll basically all have a counter, so it costs 1, and it's one of your only real removal spells.
Yeah, that's an important thing to note about Simic. They don't have good removal, and you can get in really awkward spots, which is why it's very important to note that you need to play a little earlier than you would in the green-red deck.
Yeah.
Because, again, you can rely on adapt, but also because you kind of have to tempo them out with things like Sharkdo Crab. If you have Sharkdo Crab, you can basically take that card over every card in the set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I'm serious.
Sharkdo, like you take Trollbred Guardian and then Sharkdo Crab and then probably like Titanic Brawls.
Yeah, and Chillbringer's insane in Simic.
Yeah.
Applied Biomancies are busted beyond belief.
Yeah.
The amount of stories of Cam and I just sitting, just playing, and then just being like, yeah, just here's another.
You don't know how this is real, but like blow you out.
Yeah, here's another way I just easily 2-for-1 this guy with an Applied Biomancy, like just nonstop 2-for-1 action.
Yeah, that's like the common.
I got some coupons.
That's the
Give 'em
common
to
that
me.
you would probably take every like. You would play 4 of that card.
Yeah, I play 4 or 5
happily.
copies, especially again in green blue, because in green blue you want to prioritize creatures, not spells.
Yeah.
And so you sort of, that's the spell you get. It's your sort of weird removal spell. So, yeah.
An other notable card that doesn't really fit the mold of what I was just talking about in Simic, but is actually really important is Sage's Row Savant. Like Burning Tree Vandal, it's the way to smooth out your draws and make sure that you can keep up like applying to the board every turn, that you don't like stumble and have a turn where you take, like if you take a turn off as Simic, other decks will catch up to you and then you won't have good attacks and then you can't play.
Yeah,
So-
you fall behind. Yeah, you need to curve out big idiots.
So those are the green decks. Is it's really just like, despite having powerful big late game creatures, their early game matters more, so that those great creatures can be relevant.
Okay. What if I wanted to draft black red?
If you want, yeah. So the black side, starting with Rakdos. My main experience with Rakdos, and this is kind of shown in my favor of switching from Rakdos Roustabout to Noxious Grudian, is that this deck is way grindier than I expected. The Rakdos deck, despite being a clown fiesta, isn't as aggressive as it looks like it should be.
It's not an aggressive deck.
No, like, I think you should highly prioritize Death Touch creatures. Like, obviously, like the hard removal spells are good. Like, take a Skewer, take a Get the Point. But next to those, like Orzhov Enforcer is insane, and take your Death Touch things. But then you just kind of want like creatures that are sort of built-in 2-for-1s after that. Like Rakdos Roustabout isn't that great. Spikewheel Acrobat, don't take that card. But like Blade Juggler is crazy because it's a built-in 2-for-1.
Yeah.
Dead Revels is really important because it lets you get back 2 cards.
I think Dead Rebels is, if your Rakdos deck has 0 copies, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
You're almost like
Every
locked.
black deck, I have at least, I want like a Dead Revels in every black deck.
In my Rakdos decks, I've often played 2 and been very, very happy I played 2.
And like, so the general play pattern for Rakdos is that I've noticed is like you just play out guys early, trade with those guys, like your Blade Juggler trades with their small guys, your Death Touch creatures trade with their larger creatures. And then because your Blade Juggler replaced itself or because you have Dead Revels, you end up with like 2 to 3 more cards than they have in the end game. And those kill them. Or those brick wall while like Ill-Gotten Inheritance pings them to death, or while Flameblade Artist slowly throws things at them and kills them. You like kind of just chip in for damage as you enable Spectacle and slowly drain them out. It's more of a card advantage game than you'd expect.
Yeah, Blade Juggler is, I think, one of the better cards in the Rakdos decks too. The cards, I've been unbelievable. It doesn't seem like it'd be as good as it is because we're saying Rakdos Roustabout's not that great, but Blade Juggler is. But the just built-in 2-for-1 is absurd.
Dude, the card was literally
Yeah.
banned in standard. It's so good.
It's just Rogue Refiner.
And
So yeah, if you're drafting Rakdos, like just look for these cards that let you get to the late game, and then look for things that will kill them in the late game. Ill-Gotten Inheritance. Like what's the 2/3 flyer that exiles something and gains 2? Carrion Imp.
Yeah.
yeah.
That card's good just because it can chip in and it bridges the gap to the late game. Yeah.
This is why Artist is good too, right?
Yeah. And as far as Rakdos 2-drops goes, you just want 2-drops that are hard to block or that disincentivize your opponent for blocking, because you need 2-drops that can Spectacle on 3 for Blade Juggler.
Yeah. Also, I think one of the best things you can get in Rakdos that isn't as good. So, for example, if you're in Gruul, I wouldn't really prioritize taking Daggercaster.
Yeah, it's way better in Rakdos.
But if you're in Rakdos, I think Daggercaster is almost an essential card in your deck because you aren't great at dealing with Afterlife, because the initial Afterlife guys will often trade with your best commons, which are Blade Jugglers and other things.
Yeah.
And so their Imperious Oligarch's going to trade with your Blade Juggler, and then they get an Afterlife, so it doesn't feel like you're getting ahead. So Daggercaster being able to clean up Afterlife is really important, whereas Gruul doesn't really care as often about Afterlife. I mean, it cares in some situations for reasons we'll get to when we talk about Orzhov, but I think Rakdos really doesn't want to have those things sticking around. And also, they also want to be able to play the Blade Brand combo with it.
Yeah, that's nuts.
So it's important. And that combo is not hard to set up. I've had it so many times in Limited, and also been on the receiving end.
And so, yeah, as far as like good 2-drops in Rakdos Trumpeter is good because the Menace means it's very rarely getting blocked on turn 2. So you'll have your Spectacle basically whenever you want. And, it scales well. And I've been really impressed with Plague White, actually. That thing almost always gets in for 2 because there's a lot of X1s that just can't block it, or 1Xs that can't block it.
Kind of in the same
like
vein as Ornery Goblin.
That card was nuts.
So good.
That card was actually unbelievable, but because it also did it on D.
Yeah.
And Plague White doesn't.
No, Plague White's only attacking, which is why Plague White, I think, is better in Rakdos than in Orzhov, because Rakdos still wants to attack a bit early.
Yeah, it still wants to, if it can. Take advantage of Spectacle. Like if you have an early Hacrobat, or
Hacrobat's good because it's a Death Touch creature, but yeah,
like just getting it out quick though. Turn 3 Blade Jugglers are like the dream though.
Oh yeah,
so
games are so much easier when you have that.
You can still tempo people out in this format. It's just unusual, but you should still try and do it when you can.
Yeah,
I think that's an important lesson. People sort of, it's like it's such a weird meta thing because in this limited format, is kind of slower.
Yeah, so obviously like a very, very good Rakdos deck with a lot of the uncommons, Flameblade Artist, Acrobats into Rakdos Firewheelers can play very aggressively and probably will.
But that's like an absurd.
But I guess my point is like if you're drafting Rakdos, don't be afraid to draft a slower Rakdos deck based on commons. It's still good.
Yeah. But I'm saying it's also unlikely that they get that in that deck. We're talking, I guess like this whole conversation is about this is what a medium draft is going to look like. Your average draft is going to look like you don't have the nuts on commons.
Yeah. And to emphasize like that Rakdos doesn't have to be that fast, and to like, again, reiterate my point that every deck wants a locket, like Rakdos decks also want a locket because like, just setting up like Daggercaster Blade Brand, like that's 6 mana. Dead Revels casting things, that's a bunch of mana. Refueling with cards because, you had to make some trades early. Like, Locket's good everywhere. So notable cards in Rakdos, we've mentioned a bunch of them. But your Death Touch creatures like Orzhov Enforcer, Noxious Grudian, Blade Brand for Death Touch. Your sort of card advantage cards, Blade Juggler, Dead Revelers. 2-drops that can enable Spectacle when you need it, Trumpeter and Plague White. And then other notable cards are just sort of commons that can compete with green commons in Rubble Belt Recluse, which can push a lot of damage and also sometimes block and trade the turn you play it. And Undercity Scavenger. Again, sort of the theme of every deck having something that scries or has or fixes its draws. This card just being a 5/5 blocks and trades with most green-blue creatures, green-blue-red creatures. And the scry is super helpful. So like, you usually have something laying around that you're fine dead revelsing back later that you can sack to this thing. So that's how I'd play Rakdos.
And so Orzhov, so out of all these guilds so far, like where do you lie like power level wise? Like what's your favorite to be drafting?
I'm honestly comfortable in all of them. I prefer to be in a black deck. Because, as I mentioned, the opponents on Arena don't play against the Death Touch creatures correctly.
Okay, so if we're on black decks, we have Orzhov up next.
Yeah.
Is that a color pairing you prefer over Rakdos, or where?
I don't prefer it over Rakdos. I don't think anything is particularly more powerful than anything else. I've done well with all these guilds.
Yeah, I think it's actually pretty balanced.
It's pretty balanced as long as you understand how to play them against each other.
Okay, so how do I draft for Orzhov?
So Orzhov is actually the racing color. Like, Rakdos doesn't race people because it can't jump and push damage, but Orzhov can. So a lot of my games with Orzhov end with racing, so kind of keep that in mind. But yeah, I think it lives and dies by its black Death Touch creatures and its gold cards. because of this fact that I mentioned earlier, that all the white commons are so bad that like you shouldn't play generic white commons in your Orzhov deck. You should be playing black commons and gold cards. Like Imperious Oligarch is nuts. Grasping Thrall is nuts. Grasping Thrall is another card that, like, similar to Applied Biomancy, I'd play 4 or 5.
Yeah, I've played 5. I've had up to 5, and it's nuts.
Because it races. It hits them for 2,
you can
probably
just ignore,
5.
You can just ignore what your opponent's doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the most important part of Orzhov is it's, black commons and gold cards. And then you just want things that, like, slowly chip in. Cards like... that I just mentioned. Grasping Thrall, very good. Ill-Gotten Inheritance, very good. Because you can just sort of sit behind these 1 threats. Consigned to the Pit, also pretty good in this format. Like if you're playing Lockets, 1 Locket as you probably should, you'll probably get to 6. And it does this thing of like delay the game and chip in for damage, which is all Orzhov wants to do. Delay the game while it chips in for damage. So...
yeah, this is under the presumption, should be clear for listeners, that you have a bunch of essential afterlife creatures and everything. Because if you're just playing random junky like Vizscope of Vampires, which is a great card in Orzhov, you know, but if you just have those, you can't do what we're talking about.
Right. You need, like, these cards are good because they're supported by this cast of afterlife creatures, really, is what it is. Because they let you attack with a Grasping Thrall, or they let you just wait for your Ill-Gotten Inheritance to ping in while you can chump with these things, which is why I said it's the racing deck, because you have 1 to 2 things that are killing your opponent. Well, everything else chumps for like multiple turns.
Yeah. I think it's like an important distinction between, because like we can broadly say, you know, in the black decks, if the dichotomy in this format is green and black, which I mostly agree, then yeah, every black deck needs a bunch of death touch creatures. But Orzhov it really needs afterlife card. You have to have the essential afterlife cards, or you're going to lose.
Yeah, like
you need Ministrant. You need
Ministrant of Obligation is insane. Orzhov Enforcer, insane. Oligarch, very good.
Yeah, although still Bladebrand also very good in this deck.
Bladebrand good just because now your spirits kill anything.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Or just hitting an afterlife creature with it, blocking anyway, it's going to die anyway. I get some guys, and I drew a card, and you know what I mean? It doesn't even feel like you lost anything.
Yeah.
So, but again, the reason that you say I think Consigned to the Pit is good specifically here is because Orzhov is going to delay the game.
Yes.
And they can have a huge problem with just a 5/5 trampler. That can be really a problem. And so you need just a clean answer, and you don't care if it costs 6. Whereas I don't think other decks have as much a problem as with a big trampler. You know, they can block with multiple dudes. Orzhov doesn't really have that freedom.
I agree.
Because they're just little dinky humans and spirits. Like they can't quad block something and play around a combat trick. If they quad block, it's like trading for all 4 things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas I can put my whole team in front of a 5/5 trampler, you know, I put 3 or 4 4/4s in front and be like, okay, like what combat trick do you have that's going to get all of this? Like I'm going to trade here. And so it's important to note that you want these, you almost need like a Consigned to the Pit. I don't think you're playing 2 ever.
No,
because it costs 6.
Yeah.
But yeah. And also the, you know, Summary Judgment's insane.
Yeah, Summary Judgment, Final Payment.
Yeah, Summary Judgment is so good.
So,
like, stupid Take Vengeance.
Yeah. Another point, like, to kind of contrast your pick priority versus Gruul. In Gruul, I was saying you want to sort of prioritize, you know, your removal in your first 2 to 4 picks, because creatures will follow. It's kind of the opposite in Orzhov. You want to prioritize these, like, good Afterlife and Death Touch creatures, and then removal will follow. No one else is taking Final Payment. No one else is really taking Summary Judgment.
Yeah, but you can't give up like Orzhov Enforcers and Ministrants. You just can't give those up.
Yes. So like a generic mix of removal and Afterlife creatures is good enough for Orzhov. But you need the Afterlife creatures. So Vizscopa Vampires and good removal isn't enough.
So yeah, exactly. And this is why Azorius gets screwed as a guild. Right?
Yeah.
Because they have to take Law Mage's Binding, and well, not really in the same way, I guess, but they have to take certain Azorius cards because other people might just play them. Like Bant might splash them, the Esper deck might splash, right? So things end up really awkward for them. and they have to take Senate Griffins because other people just steal them.
Yeah.
And
Simic
so-
decks will take them.
There's a lot of other decks that will take Azorius cards.
But Azorius needs everything.
But they need everything, and they'll take they don't get eels. Simic's going to take those as fast as they can.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're playing Azorius, you should take eels.
Yeah, Eel's very good.
You should take as many eels as you can get. I think that's the thing. People are taking the dumb owl
Yeah, like
over eels, and because it seems like an Azorius card, quote unquote.
yeah, don't take that owl. The 1/4 that you can give vigilance, not
That
worth
card's
it.
so
Don't
bad.
play it. Don't play the 1/3 flyer.
That card's also horrendous. Yeah. Azorius,
Yeah.
like I said, the only way you win with Azorius is going full control.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Is that the only Azorius cards that people leave to you aren't good, whereas the other guilds have cards that they'll sort of get because no one else plays that are good in that deck.
Yeah, exactly. But the cards you're left with, apart from the very good Law Mage's Binding,
Yes.
other people will snipe. Like your Senate Griffin ain't safe.
No.
Orzhov will take that from you every chance they get.
And they should.
They should. You should prioritize taking that card again because of what Cam said, that your Orzhov deck should be gold cards, which Senate Griffin counts as, and black cards. And so you get sniped when you're Azorius by two sides. You get sniped by Simic and you get sniped by Rakdos and Orzhov.
There's a couple exceptions of like playable white cards in Orzhov because I think because of the way that it plays in like sort of chipping in while racing, incidental life gain is very good in Orzhov because it lets you sort of chump with your life total for some turn. And so I've been really impressed with, what's the card's name? The 2/2 that gains life when creatures enter.
Oh,
Impassioned Order.
Yeah. That
Impassioned Order is very good.
Oh, yeah, plays well with Afterlife.
Plays well with Afterlife. If you have like 2 to 3 Orzhov Guild Gates, like Archway Angel's also fine.
No, that card's,
Even if that thing gains 2 in your Orzhov deck,
it's pretty good. Yeah, because at that point, if it gains 4, it's absurd.
Yes.
It's a little overcosted, but yeah.
Yeah.
Azorius pretty medium. Just play Esper. Esper's just busted.
Yeah. Notable cards in Orzhov, as we've been mentioning. Yeah. Final Payment, Grasping Thrall, the Afterlife cards. Debtor's Transport was a card that I've been more impressed with, just because it trades up with a green creature and then starts chumping other green creatures. Like Afterlife 2 is big.
Yeah, we talked about this.
Sky Tether is nuts in Orzhov because you're getting in with Spirits and Grasping Thralls. It's 1 mana removal. You don't need to attack on the ground. Twilight Panther is just Death Touch. And Justiciar's Portal, I think is how that's pronounced.
Justicar.
There's an I in there. Justiciar?
Oh, yeah, I guess.
Anyway, that card I've been quite impressed with.
Yeah.
It's basically negate / blossoming defense / combat trick.
Yeah, you wouldn't think it'd be good. And normally, I think in a lot of formats, it's medium. It's like, what's the pirate card? We sometimes played it in the blue-red. Remember when we were playing in Kaladesh and we used to always draft the super hyper-aggressive blue-red deck?
Siren's Ruse?
Siren's Ruse. But no, there was a form of that card in the super aggressive blue-red deck. I can't remember. But yeah, it flickers a creature and you draw a card.
From Kaladesh?
Or maybe not Kaladesh. Maybe the set after. Maybe it's from Ixalan. I can't remember. But anyway, it's like flicker a creature.
Yeah, because I remember Siren's Ruse from Ixalan.
There was one like it from the set before too. But anyway, those cards in those formats are pretty medium. Siren's Ruse, for example, the format was too fast. You know what I mean? Like you didn't have time to goof around. Like you just didn't.
Yeah.
You're just dead.
Yeah.
But in this format, I still think that card is medium. But if you end up playing it as a
Like I'm quick to cut it if I need to, but as a 23rd, I've been happy with it as like saving a creature with an ETB. Like saving a Grasping Thrall is insane. Untapping a Death Touch creature and giving it first strike, also very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that card is like, you have to have, something has have gone wrong in some ways to play it, but
Yeah, you're not super
What
excited
I'm
about
saying-
it, but I'm saying don't discredit
don't
it. 'Cause
just-
I discredited it at first.
don't just hate, don't hate draft impact 2. You know what I mean? When you
Yeah.
could just take it because it might end up playing it because it is playable. But
All right, what if I want to draft all the colors and play like 8
Gates?
tap lands?
Yeah, so going in on Gates, I think,
Can I first pick Gate Colossus?
yes.
so yeah, you can first pick Gate Clauses. My point about Gates is that like,
Yes.
don't go into Gates if you haven't seen a payoff by maybe like halfway through pack 1.
It's got to be early.
Because it means someone else is taking them.
Someone else is doing it.
And you like the way Gates is designed as an archetype is you need those payoffs to be as ridiculously strong as they are to offset the fact that a lot of your lands are going to be tapped. So you can't just hope to get those later, because if you don't, you're just playing tap lands and you'll lose. So, but it's also a very powerful archetype. So like an early Gates Ablaze, an early Gatebreaker Ram, or an early Gate Colossus, I think are grounds to just start moving in.
Yeah, if I got to pick 3 to 4 Gate Colossus, I would take it and go in.
Yes.
Because you're just going to be able to get gates at tons of points. And your deck is still fine. Like, if you just playing, I don't know, let's say you're playing green-red, which is the best possible for gates, I think. Mm-hmm. You can play Naya. Naya's also fine-ish, but your splash won't be very good. But yeah, green red's your best because you have Gatebreaker Ram and Gates Ablaze, and you have the potential and then you just get to play Gruul. Like you're just already playing what I think is one of the best color combinations in set.
Well, I'm
but
assuming
with this insanely busted upside, where if Gate Colossus doesn't take much. If you play it for 5 mana, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, 6, it's even fine. Like,
and nothing kills it.
Oh, people just roll over to that card. They just fold.
Yeah, it's insane against Afterlife. They just die. If you have a Gatebreaker Ram, we're talking about a card that's just busted in half. If you have like 3 gates in play.
We just spent all this time talking about how the black deck's only recourse to big creatures is Death Touch. And no Death Touch creature can block Gate Colossus.
Yeah.
I'm assuming if you're playing the Gates deck, though, you're playing like a minimum 3 colors. Maybe more, just because you have more access to gates.
Access to gates. Yeah,
right?
You might even play off-color gates, or you're just... But I'm saying you are probably base green-red splashing.
Yeah.
It's the classic 4 or 5 color pile strategy, which we've done whole episodes on, but if you're listening and you're drafting this, you always are base 2 color. Base primary color, and then you're splashing the others. And so if you're playing the Gates deck, I think ideally you're probably Jund or so. Like you're green-red, splashing black. Jund is actually a very good color combination in this format for 3 colors. Mm-hmm. It's actually quite strong. Jund is one of the better 3 color. I think the 2 best 3 color decks are Esper and Jund. Bant's
fine.
Probably
fine.
better as 2 color. Same with Rug. It's probably better as 2 color. But Esper is better than Azorius. Mm-hmm. And Jund is... Yeah.
Jund is. There are some cards that like really only Jund can take advantage of, like Undercity's Embrace.
Yes. Yeah, there are a few reasons
clear
to
the stage.
Yeah, there are a few reasons to go Jund. So yeah, Bant and Jund are both the reasons you would play the Gates deck. Those are things to look out for because the Gates deck being able to have that kind of fixing, you can open the gates. No one else is taking that card. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to pick that card early if you're drafting gates. No one else is taking it. Mm-hmm. So you're in the clear. And if they do, they're just trolling. Like they're just, sure, your draft got screwed because someone else doesn't know what they're doing. Whatever. It's not your fault.
But yeah, when you're drafting gates, like these payoffs are very important, as I said, to make up for your tap lands. But your sort of priority should be these payoffs, then the actual guild gates, because other people will take those. So like you should be picking those, pretty early because you need them. You need them more than other people do, but they'll still take them. And then kind of all else follows. The open the gates, the like generic creatures to fill your curve.
So yeah, the reason you have to prioritize the payoffs here is because if you just end up with a bunch of gates, no payoffs, it's useless, obviously. But more importantly, the payoffs are playable even if you whiff. Mm-hmm. It's not ideal.
Like a Ram eventually will be big. A Colossus cast eventually is not ideal, but fine.
Yeah, exactly. If let's say your deck has 2 Ram, 2 Colossus, and 5.
That's insane.
Yeah, your deck's not. But you have only 5 gates, right? It only takes you drawing 2 of them, I think, for you to be very happy. Or happy, let's say. We're talking about you drew 3 or 4 gates and you just pop it.
Yeah, you only need to draw 2 of the gates to have your payoff cards feel like suitable payoffs.
Yeah, we're talking with 3 mana, 4/4 Vigilance Trample. Mm-hmm. Pretty good. Mm-hmm. I think we're all we'd all agree that as a limited. If there was just a 3 mana, 4/4 Vigilance Trample in limited, and
it'd get banned.
We would just pick that over almost any card, and then Colossus costing 6 is nuts. Like a 6-mana 8/8 that can't be blocked by 2 or less is just absurd. So the fail state of only having like 4 or 5, 6 gates is not that bad. So, and then maybe you just don't end up playing gates. That's the other thing to keep in mind when drafting it is, yeah, I took these payoffs, but I'll just focus on building a good green-red deck unless I keep seeing gates, and I'll obviously take gates, but keep in mind how you balance these things. But
that's another note I had about Gate Colossus is like, so we talked about sort of the 4 main 2-color combinations, but of course you can blend these into 3-color decks if you need to, or if you get a lot of gates. And I'm happy taking a Gate Colossus early because it also just plays well in 3-color decks. If you're playing Jund and you have 3 gates, put a Colossus in it.
All right.
I heard you like 3-color decks.
Yeah.
Put this Colossus in it.
So keep that in mind. And I guess, so the last point, we've kind of gone over each guild. I had made some notes of over and underperforming cards. Things that are doing worse than I expected and things that sort of surprised me. So notable overperformers, Macabre Mockery. I thought this thing was just sort of a gimmick at first. Then I realized it's an instant. So it can ambush people for blocks, bring back their creature and trade. It's like a 4-mana removal spell if you want.
Then I read the card.
Right. It's a 4-mana removal spell if you want, and it also can like kill your opponent if they attack too aggressively.
Tell me I have to read cards now?
Yeah.
Come on,
that
man.
overperformed. Out of the red decks, well, out of Gruul in particular, Clamor Shaman. Because
Is that
of this,
the one that makes things not able to block?
yeah, with Riot.
Yeah, that card's nuts.
Yeah, just because it pushes damage early.
Yeah.
Debtor's Transport I thought would be too slow, but it's really good. There's a rare on here, Amplifier. It reads goofy, but it's basically always been 6 to 10 power. So pretty good for a 4-drop.
Yeah.
Resolute Watchdog was another one that overperformed. Again, it looks like maybe not super effective, but it lets you like eat something in it trades up in combat.
It's a real good boy, Cam.
Yeah, Resolute Watchdog's pretty good. Turning off a removal spell for 1 mana, 2 mana, I guess, is very good. And Slimebind. Slimebind looked a bit, I don't know. I, for some reason, didn't think it'd be
we
that
said
good,
that
but it
card was nuts in our last limited episode.
Slimebind's
we were
really
talking
good.
about how busted it was. We went on it for like 5 minutes.
Because it like lets you race.
Yeah.
So, And then things that underperformed, top of the list is a rare, Lavinia, Azorius Renegade. Azorius is unplayable, but like don't take this card because it's a rare. It's actually just a hard to cast bear that does nothing. And similarly, Immolation Shaman, I have not been super impressed with. Like if you take this thing in the middle of a pack and you consider it a common, sure. But don't take it because it's in your rare slot. It's not relevant. It's just a 1/3. Another underperformer is Gyre Engineer.
Yeah.
That card is trash.
Its body's not.
I think I said this. I think we went over
We went over this. Like just Gyre Engineers underperformed.
So bad.
High alert decks underperform. Obviously, they look nuts when they high roll and play their shitty creatures and then cast high alert, but that's not consistent enough. So like maybe if you have 2 high alerts and you for some crazy reason took the first one and then got past a second, but I don't know. I'm not stoked about those decks. Rakdos Roustabout's on here as a somewhat underperformer for things I mentioned. I thought it would be better than it is. Another rare, Pestilent Spirit. Like, don't get tricked into taking this because it's a rare. It's just Noxious Guardian. Take it when you would take that card. Bloodmist Infiltrator. This is the 3-mana 3/1 that you can sack things to make it unblockable. It's always just been a worse Viscopa Vampire for me because I never want to sack anything to it, and it just trades with spirits, it just hasn't been good for me. Just play a Viscopa Vampire.
Yeah, I can see that. Cool.
Clear the Stage has been underperforming because its like second mode is never active in black decks. It's like only good in Jund. And so because black decks are usually not Jund, it's like it's just been a 5-mana removal spell. And so you can play things that kill the same creatures for cheaper. Smeltward Ignis looks like it's nice having like this incidental active treason on a creature that can do things early. But because of this, people just block it. So it's just a 2-mana 2/1 that does nothing. You like can't attack with it. And because you're not attacking, the active treason doesn't push a relevant amount of damage. So
yeah. Okay.
Undercity's Embrace, similar to Clear the Stage. It's just an edict. There's a lot of spirits. There's a lot of things people will find sacking. And the second mode is rarely on in black decks.
Yeah, even Ryan messaged me about this card because he always asks me about limited and what he should draft. And I mentioned something recently about Ravnica. I was like, oh yeah, this like blue-black card. It was about guilds. And he's like, no, I only ever drafted Healing Hawks. He's like, I only ever played Red White. You told me that's all I should ever play, and that's all I played. But he's talking to me. He's like, man, I keep debating myself with this dumb card. He messaged me. He's like, what do you think of Undercity's Embrace? I'm like, it's not great. He's like, God, I keep thinking it's going to be nuts. And he's like, it's terrible.
Yeah, it never hits the creature you need it to, and it never gains you 4 life.
Yeah. He's like, it's awful. He's like, it's so bad. He's like, I keep picking it, thinking, like, oh yeah, that's the card again. The Edict. That's
and so it's
nuts.
not
it just like, and then it's just, he's like 10 minutes later, he's like, gas, just in his hand doing nothing.
It's not terrible, but it has underperformed for this same reason.
Yeah.
It's a card that, like, if it's coming around near the end of a pack, take it and bring it in against the green decks, but don't main deck it.
Okay.
And then Thirsting Shade. This is the 1-mana 1/1 lifelink that you can pump. I've seen people play it.
That card sucks.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody activate it more than once in a turn, and it just is never of a relevant size. You just mulliganed. So.
Yeah, that card's unplayable. Don't put it in your deck. Yeah. All right. Well.
So yeah, green versus black. 2 drops are important because of, buying yourself time to set up powerful enchantments or being able to start racing against powerful enchantments. You want to lock it. Death Touch matters a lot. And that's the format.
All right. On that note, thank you all for joining the club this week. Make sure, as always, you check out wizardtower.com for all your Magic Single needs. And if you're in Ottawa this weekend, Wizard Tower 2K Open Championship for Ravnica Allegiance is happening this Saturday. Registration 9 a.m. starts at 10. I'll be there. These guys may or may not be there. It's modern and draft.
I'm not going to be there. I'm going to be in a different province.
I'll be there. It's going to be a good time. Always is. And if you want to support the podcast, you can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/DWC Podcast. We've got some sweet benefits for all patrons. If you want to get in contact with us as well, you can find us on Twitter at DWC Podcast 1 or on Facebook, the Disorganized Wizard Club Podcast. And however you listen to the show, whether it's on Podbean, iTunes, any podcast app, Google Play, leave us a review, rate the podcast, share it with your friends. Everything helps the podcast keep growing and bring it to new listeners. We'll catch you all next week.
Later.